Welcome, park lovers. My name is Tim Cassidy, president of the Zionsville Board of Park and Recreations, and this is our regular monthly meeting. It is Wednesday, August 11th. First item of business is to do a roll call. John Stair. Here. John Wallenberg.
Here.
Bill Pack.
Here.
John Salovich. Here. Sarah Moore.
Here.
And I know Aaron Bidwell is not present this evening, so we have a quorum. Next item is approval of our July 14th minutes, a copy of which has been provided to all members. Are there any questions or comments? Roger?
One correction on page 2 under Overly Warman Park, new business. I was reminded that the baskets are called Gambion baskets. Not too many people know that, but I read about that again recently. So not gaming baskets, they're Gambion baskets. And then in the same sentence, wing walls are not wing malls. So those are just a couple typos. And then I wanted to go back to page 1 where we talked about the digital playground, which I think is up and running now, which is great. But there was a question posed to me about, and I think this is just a good lesson in general, that anytime we're making a purchase of equipment or, a contract or anything where, we're not going out to public bidding, and there's an obvious reason, that reason should generally be reflected in our minutes. In this case, my understanding is that there's only one company that's doing this. It's a very specialized product. So that was the reason. And those are considered special purchases under the Indiana statutes that allow us to just choose one vendor in a situation like that. So it would be good for that to be reflected. And I was thinking we approved the expenditure last month, which wasn't reflected in the minutes, but it's also within Jared's authority to make purchases of that up to that amount. So I wasn't concerned about the amount. I just wanted to remind everyone that when we choose something like that, that there's a reason that we're not going out to bid or getting several proposals.
Okay, I think that was understood last month, but let's correct the minutes or reflect in this month's minutes the fact that there was a specialty product. Any other comments?
And we're essentially a beta site for that, right? Are we a test site or we're not?
But we were like one of only 2 in the US, right?
Right,
But,
there are 2 park systems in the US. So we missed out on the beta last.
Okay.
Tim, one other correction, the bottom of paragraph 3, the motion passed unanimously 5-1.
Yes.
May just remove unanimous.
Oh, right. Thank you. Any other corrections or questions? Is there a motion to approve the minutes as corrected here this evening?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as corrected.
And I'll second that.
All right, John Wallenberg's made the motion and John Stair has seconded. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion unanimously carries. This time, let me introduce some special guests in the audience this evening. Of course, Jared Logston, our superintendent, is here this evening. Roger Burris is on the podium here or on the dais. He's the Parks Board counsel. Joe Rust is our IT specialist. If you're having problems tuning in this evening, you can contact Joe. Mindy Murdoch, our Director of Recreation, is here. Tricia McClellan, a principal with REA. Runsdell Ernstberger and Associates is here to help us with some reports later on. And I believe Mike Wall, manager of the Zionsville Golf Course, is with us as well. All right, at this point, it's time for public presentations. Anyone in the public has the ability to ask questions or make presentations. Please identify yourself if you wish to make a presentation. There being no such demand, we will move on with our staff reports. Jared, let's start with you with the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Just a couple things to highlight from the report. We did welcome William Wright, our new maintenance tech 2, Blaine Gordon McLean, our new seasonal park maintenance, and Wendy Schrepperman, our new recreation coordinator. All three are getting acclimated to the department, and everyone's enjoying their company. So we appreciate that. Last month, the department was awarded a Laird grant through this Indiana DNR. So that will provide us an opportunity to reevaluate the study that was conducted years ago on our Eagle Creek banks along Starkey. And the new study will also incorporate the shores of Overly Mormon Park. So now we'll be able to reassess priorities for project sites to reduce erosion and other environmental factors that reduce the quality of our water. So looking forward to getting awarded that agreement and moving forward with that process. The second and final Barns and Brew event was hosted on July 29th, which was our rain event. We had 131 adults total for the program between the two events, and we were able to raise $1,387 for the Maple Lawn mission. So we look forward to debriefing with the Maple Lawn board and discussing next year's programming collaborations. I also wanted to follow up and let you know that I have spoke with members of Zionsville United Methodist Church about the drainage concerns and the project between our shared land. They are on board as we move from conceptual to design and implementation to sharing those costs as they come on their side of the land. So just wanted to follow up on that. And that's all the updates from my report.
All right, thank you, Jared. Let's move on to Mike Wall here here in person. Welcome, Mike, to make a sort of semi-annual in-person presentation of the golf course.
Yeah, I'm back. Great to be here. As far as the golf course, we're having another stellar year. As of today, we're about $30,000 from where we were all of last year. So right now we're like $320,000 for the year. Last year we were at $355 for the year. So we're having a great year down at the golf course. I know Tim, you've enjoyed, I think, coming down to the golf course a lot this year.
Yeah,
Leagues have been up. We just finished up our St. Al's League on Monday, where there were 60 people for the shotgun. Yeah, all of our leagues are up. The penny putters, they added 5 additional members. Penny putters, for people that don't know, are the longest standing league at the golf course. They've been there about 50 years. It's the ladies league. And yeah, due to the increase or popularity of golf, they added 5 new members this year for the first time. So probably add more next year, but we do have limitations down there as to how many golfers we can get out there on a Wednesday morning. So yeah, we're doing well. I know Jared maybe sent over the July report, so I just wanted to it said revenue is 80,000. That was actually June's revenue. Our revenue for July was 72,167, but that was still a 10.5% increase from where we were in the month of July in 2020. So rounds for the year at the golf course. So if I take, we opened up last year May 22nd and closed approximately November 15th. But if we take the rounds from May 22nd this year to date compared to last year, we're up 13.9% on rounds. So we're averaging every day 123 rounds of golf at the golf course. Recently, last Sunday, we had over 200 rounds in one day, which is the first time that's ever happened. And we nearly had $5,000 in revenue. So yeah, the golf course is doing well. If we keep our projections as to what we made last year from August 12th through November 15th, our projected revenue for this year would be $464,800, which would be roughly a 25% increase from the $353,000 from last year. So, yeah, I mean, dare I say whatever I do down there kind of works. And it's not really this year all COVID because, you know, people are back at work. Yeah, people are just coming out still at the golf course. We've changed agronomic companies, and I think the condition of the course is much more playable. The greens are better. Yeah, people.
So your expense budget, so doesn't include capital expenses or amortization, but your expense budget is 235,
well, last
something
year,
like that?
Yeah, it was so
to put
yeah, it
this,
was
to put that
235, and then we had that $100,000 that was you know, earmarked for cart paths that was included in there. So roughly, you know, on an annual basis, it's about basically 235 is our annual budget for expenses.
not including paths or.
Not including
anything like
paths.
that. Yeah, that puts things in context, how successful they've been.
Yeah, so
How have the carts and have you been using the irrigation, and how have the new carts been received?
yeah, so we use irrigation every night. I mean, especially on days like today. I mean, we had a little bit of a wet period there in July where we didn't have to use it. But yeah, we use the irrigation every day. You know, they come on sprinklers come on at 10 o'clock, work overnight. So yeah, irrigation's being used every day. The carts, yeah, they've been a welcome sight for the golfers. No one's sticking to the carts anymore when there's no tape on the seats that they can stick to, and there's no holes. We've only had, you know, a handful of instances where we've had people try to, you know, jump a creek or something with a cart, but overall, carts are great. People are very appreciative of the carts. And you know, I know as far as like concessions where right now ahead of where we were all of last year. Merchandise, we're ahead of where we were last year. So these are just numbers that in the past, where if we did $10,000 in retail down at the golf course, that might have been a 12-year total, where now we're doing, you know, 10,000, you know, we're almost at $11,000 through August 11th. And we still have really the best months of golf to go, September and October. So yeah, those numbers are going to increase. We actually expanded our portfolio of beer. I'm not a connoisseur of beer, but I've got Claire Ellis, who's on our staff, who kind of helps me out what we should order for beer. So we brought Moontown in, the local brewery out there. So trying to bring local flavor down to the golf course. So when I first started, was $2 a can, and we're selling Moontown in this Metazoa beer at $5.50, and no one's really batting an eye. So it's just that we're offering different. It's not that we're trying to gouge people, but it's just the going rate for beer. We're offering local flavors, and people seem to enjoy it. And each week I place an order for, so you'll see claims for Moontown in there, and quite a few, because not that we push alcohol sales, but yeah, people are definitely partaking in the offerings that we're having this year.
So are you sticking around for the golf course pathway improvements, or should we go directly to that item while we have Mike here?
I can stick around. I mean, I got nowhere to go.
Hey, Mike, are you still happy with that point of sale system?
Yep, we're still happy. Oh yeah, that point of sale system. I mean, yeah, the thing about 4UP, I mean, so when we got 4UP, you know, last year, I mean, they were a small company. Now they've exploded. I've been working with them to try to, you know, refine things. There's a few little things that we need to work on, but yeah, the 4UP is great. I mean, I can't say enough about that. I mean, people that are making tee times, roughly 60% of the people are making tee times online. So, you know, it's helping us out, because I really don't like answering the phone. But, you know, it just, it's just the way of life now. I think it's like legitimized the golf course, you know, the fact that we have all this, you know, this new technology. And if in the past they couldn't make a tee time online, well, now it's legitimized the course, and they can make tee times online, they could pay online, they could, you know, season passes last year, for example. You know, they were purchased, a vast majority of them were purchased online, so they could purchase those. And we even sold a season pass 2 weeks ago. So I mean, we're still selling season passes. But yeah, so last year I think we had a total of 24 season passes sold. This year we have 97. You know, we got those out and before the holidays last year, which helped a little bit. But you know, the fact that they're purchasing those online is great. And yeah, I can't say enough about 4 Up. I mean,
good.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I can go on my phone right now and I can tell you where we stand to the penny, you know, as far as year to date and rounds and more reports than you guys would ever really want. I mean, you could have them, but there's more reports that, you know, that they offer that we've never had that are just great. And then we use it as a marketing tool when we need to like sell season passes or if we're closed because of rain. So it's great. It's a great communication tool.
There was a question about changing the holes and making the current number 4, number 1, and kind of reworking the course that way. And I guess the question I have for you, Tim, and maybe for Roger, is that something that Mike can just do, or is that something that we need to talk about and approve?
I think that's a part of the pathway project. So let's defer that until we get to the pathway project.
Okay.
But I think that's an important part or component of that project.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. Are there any questions about the golf course or?
No, but that's great. If you can stick around for the pathway capital project discussion, that would be helpful.
Yep.
Let's move on to staff report from our Director of Recreation Services, Mindy Murdoch.
Hi, good evening, guys.
Hey, Mindy.
All right, so just another busy summer month with the recreation. We had 1,413 people walk through the door at the Nature Center. So we have noticed the numbers since kids went back to school have dropped off, which we actually are really enjoying. Having that opportunity to breathe and actually start working on some projects within the Nature Center and do some planning for fall and into winter. Just for July itself, we had 38 programs that were offered. Our programs are still very well received. We average about 18 per program attendance. So still doing very well. We're definitely not seeing any changes as of yet. Just a few things. We did wrap up our summer camp. So on my report, we have kind of a little bit of a survey that went on. We had 281 kids registered for camp. Now, not all of those kids actually attended. We did have some people that registered and they just never showed up. So, which happens every year. But, you know, we had 14 camps this year, which is the most camps that we've had since I started with the Parks Department. 5 of those camps were week-long camps offered in the mornings. And then 9 were one-day camp options. We did expand our ages a little this year, and we went as low as 3 years old, which, you know, me and my staff had some recaps. So we're going to kind of reevaluate the 3-year-olds and perhaps make them their own camp next year because they were a little much adding 3 to 5.
I know summer camp was curtailed last year. How does the number of camps and campers compare to, say, 2 years ago or past years?
More camps this year than we've ever had. So that's gone up. And I would say this year with the online registration and things, we filled all of our camps quicker than we have in the past. So yeah, all very well received in that regard. So we brought in a profit between the nature-based camps and the outdoor rec camps. We profited just under $6,000. And so that'll be used for future camps for next year, as well as other nature and outdoor rec programs. Our goal this year was trying to get a 35% profit. We definitely hit that with the nature-based ones. We were just slightly under, and that's because we had to end up canceling our fishing camp because it decided to rain the entire day. So yeah, it was cold and rainy and not really what we wanted to do for 5 hours with kids.
The fish would have been biting. I mean,
They probably would have, but the kids would have been miserable. Especially since they would have had to walk from Mulberry to Carter Station in the rain both ways. So, we also this year, as part of our start of volunteers, we did have teen counselors that helped out with our seasonals and our staff. And so we did have 5 teens that joined us over the summer, and they were really nice to have that extra hand to help set up materials, to kind of help kids, take them to the, walk them to wherever the bathroom might be. And it was nice that they were closer in age to the actual kids. So it kind of really helped them, like when we were playing games and things, the kids really gravitated towards the teens. And it was nice to be able to see, some of them had, participated in camps in the past and they kind of aged out. So that was one reason why we looked at doing that. So the other thing is that, of course, even though it's not in July, but August 1st, Magical Park did open. And I wanted to give you guys a little bit of update for that. So we do have the analytics that we can look at. And like I said, they're a day behind, but from August 1st to August 9th, to date, we've had 55 devices that have gone and logged into Magical Park, like actual at the park. I don't know how many logged in at home. It doesn't pick up then. It's just when they hit the park itself. And so they averaged out to about 138 visitors. So within that 1 week, we've hit almost 140 people.
you got some nice press late last week.
Yep. So we've got of course, it was on the local news. I know that there should be an article coming out with AIM because I did interview with a reporter. And so that one should be coming out here soon. And then I know that Amanda is also going to be planning some things that the town will be releasing. And then we've got some special events that we're hoping to put together in September and October to kind of draw people back into it, to kind of keep it relevant, keep it interesting. So, and then the last thing that I have, and again, it's not for July, but if you guys haven't signed up for it, we do have a webinar tomorrow night. That is in joint partnership with the Parks Department as well as Hamilton County Soil and Water Conservation District, Indiana Native Plant Society, and the Hamilton County Urban Conservation Association. I had to remember which one it was. And so that will be a webinar on actually encouraging native restoration in HOAs. And as of tonight, there's 110 people signed up to attend. So if you're interested, it's a great topic. We opened registration up to get a little bit more people, and there we go. So any questions?
All right. Thank you, Mindy. Yeah, busy summer. All right, let's move on to our staff report from Roger Burris, Park Board Attorney.
I reported last month about the Holiday Road Bridge and right-of-way transfer, and that was approved by Town Council last week. With that now accomplished, we're also working with town staff on clarifying some of the issues with the other pathways in the Holiday Farms development. They're working on their latest parcel, their latest plat, which includes some of the commercial properties along Michigan Road. So I've been looking at those plans in order to just see where the pathways go, the public pathways, and how those are going to fit into our system, and make sure we get some more information about maintenance obligations and things like that. Also getting Turkey Foot Road right of way transferred to the town as well. Another thing on the.
Would that right of way still be the county's right of way technically?
Yes. So I think
the double track that's been paved along at the end of Turkey Foot Road. So
right, that's what gets you up to what used to be Holiday Road.
So that was not.
And it's all paved. It's like the pathway's done, but it's not part of any of the Holiday Farms plats. So it's still county right of way, so it makes sense to me for that to be transferred to the town as well. Any other questions on Holiday Road or Farms? And then with the rail trail and the north and south connectors, and I passed out a summary of some of the land acquisition issues, but another thing that's going to take a bit of my time is anytime we use grant funds for either acquisition of real estate or development of real estate, the granting agency, in this case, the Indiana DNR, requires that we put a restriction on the property, which basically says that it will always be used for outdoor recreation or for the next level trails. The language is a little bit different, but as you can imagine with, we're using those funds for lots of pieces north and south. So, and given that, we've been acquiring this property over the last 5 years, and it's not always easy to put this together, but I've got a good start on it, and I've talked to the people at DNR about how we can do that conveniently and without making it too complicated. But the actual restriction for next level trails is a grant program that we've never been involved in before. Jared mentioned the Lair grant. That's one that we've done 2 or 3 times. They don't require a restriction, by the way, but before Next Level Trails, it was the Land and Water Conservation Fund grants that we got 2 of those. So we had to put restrictions on Heritage Trail Park and then on portions of the Overly Warman Park. But the restriction that's required for the Next Level Trails grant is that the intent of the Next Level Trails program is to preserve and develop important recreational trail resources throughout the state of Indiana for the use and enjoyment of the citizens of the state and others. Property developed under the Next Level Trails program will be used solely for recreational trail purposes in perpetuity. So that's basically the restriction. And in order to keep our minutes and our record straight, I would ask if we could have a motion to authorize our president or superintendent to sign a declaration of restriction, so that when I get all these legal descriptions pulled together in one document, it'll be all ready to go, and it will already have been blessed by this board. So it's required by the grant, but I still think we should approve and pass a motion to approve that.
And it's also required before the first distribution of funds, which with the NLT grant, those funds go before you spend it. So we're kind of ready for the check whenever we can at least get the southern portion with the deed restriction on it.
So nobody objects to this restriction all along our rail trail from Zionsville Road to
No.
Whitestown.
Doesn't go that far. It's only the properties where we're using the grant funds to do the work.
Oh, it's the north and the
That'd
south,
be the north and
only
the
the
south.
north and the
Yeah.
south. Okay,
Yeah. That would be a much bigger project.
not the middle
I'll
part.
pass on that one.
Okay, so it's only our north extension and south extension rail trail mileage. All right, is there a motion to approve the required restriction, the DNR required restriction as a condition of Next Level Trail grant, and authorize the board president and superintendent to, in consultation with our attorney, to execute all necessary documents to effect this?
I would make that motion.
Thank you, John. John
welcome.
Stair makes the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Sarah Moore makes a second. Is there any questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The motion unanimously carries.
Thank you. And I think that's it for my report. I'll have some more information for you under the Southern Rail Trail expansion item on the new business.
All right, thank you, Roger. Let's move on to new business. We have a request regarding the Cultural District Concert Series. Jared, do you want to present that?
Yes, so the Zionsville Cultural District has been executing concerts in the Lincoln Park facility for several years. They were canceled last year due to COVID, but they also have these same gatherings at Lions Park, so you might see those as well. To help assist with that, the underwriting of that concert series at Lincoln Park, there is a Kiwanis grant endowment provided by the Community Foundation of Boone County that is passed to the Parks Department as a second beneficiary to underwrite the concert series. And the Cultural District is asking for that endowment funds available for 2021, which are $939 to help underwrite their concert series that's literally taking place right now as we speak in Lincoln Park. Candace of the Cultural District reached out to me, and she's not able to be here, but did provide a letter that was included in your packet. So just requesting the board to make a motion to release those funds to the Zionsville Cultural District to underwrite the Lincoln Park concert series for 2021.
All right, Roger, do you have any background on this? My recollection is that at the end of the summer, we would do it. We're doing it slightly early this year to help the Cultural District. This is a grant that we've always said relates to concerts in Lincoln Park. And the concert series is now both Lions Park and Lincoln's Park. So it's, in my view, okay. That's one little wrinkle, change in that concert series that you should be aware of. Roger, any other history?
This goes back a long time. And we've always supported it. Actually, I mean, I think there was another entity that used to do the approvals, but something changed and we were like the backup. So, and it's also because, you know, we were always involved in doing the setup and so forth for the concerts in Lincoln Park because that required town staff. So we were always happy to do that. It was a great community get together. And part of the change to having some of those in Lions Park is just that it became so popular that pretty much outgrew Lincoln Park. But they wanted to always keep some of the concerts in Lincoln Park, maybe with some of the smaller acts or you know, solo musicians as opposed to bands. So we can support both.
Okay, is there a motion to authorize Jared to work with the Boone County Community Foundation to pay out to the Cultural District the amount referred to in our presentation?
$939.
I'll make that motion.
Sarah Moore has made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
They're battling. John Solovich makes a second. Any questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The motion unanimously carries. Okay, on to the Perkinsville Zanesville Community Center conceptual planning. Jared.
Earlier this year, the Parks Department released an RFP for services for the conceptual planning of a community center in Zionsville. We wanted to better understand what would fit inside that facility, what that footprint would be, and where that location might be to begin planning as we move forward with design and construction. So this phase is kind of gathering community input and how operations would be shaped within the facility. And with the RFP, we received 7 responses. A review committee comprised of John Stair, Tim Cassidy, Aaron Bidwell, the mayoral administration, and Parks Department or town department heads joined to review these proposals submitted. From the 7, 4 were selected for a second round interview in person or virtual. And from those 4, Perkins and Will was unanimously selected as the best firm to represent Zionsville as we plan a future community center. So before you, I'd like to ask for a recommendation and a motion to approve the funding of $125,000 for the conceptual planning of a community center within Zionsville, contingent on an additional appropriation request with town council to happen on August 16th. That's next Monday.
And would that come out of our general? So if the they would approve using our general fund to fund that contract.
Yep.
Correct?
Exactly.
We have lots of money in. Any questions, John? Anything? I mean, Perkinsville did the West Lafayette Community Centers. They're nationally known out of Chicago with Indianapolis connections. They'll do a very good job. It'll be a very public process. So, you know, we'll see what our citizens really want. My wife was trying to take her sister yesterday to find a pool that was open, and the Monon Center was closed already. So they ended up at LA Fitness. Kind of an interesting journey for early August, but I don't know what that says about pools as a part of a community center. But
Well, I want to emphasize what Jared mentioned briefly, that this was the unanimous choice by all 7 members of the committee, and it really wasn't even close. So with that in mind, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we accept this proposal from Perkins and Will and move forward with them and with the town council next week.
I will second that motion of John Stair to approve the expenditure for this studied concept design. Any further questions? Comments? If not, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. The motion unanimously carries. Okay, let's move on to Heritage Trail Park, and we have a couple of minor items on the agenda relating to the Heritage Trail Park, dog park, and Phase 2 improvements. Jared.
So improvements to Heritage Trail Park are well underway and actually starting to wrap up. The new playground, it's an inclusive playground for the older age, 6 to 12, should be installed within the next couple of weeks, keeping us right on track with our end of August completion date. One thing that came up, wanted to propose a change order to this project. Earlier this spring, park maintenance attempted to assess the drainage within our dog park. It's long known that there's been a puddle that likes to form on approximately half of our dog park. So the ambition was to install perforated tile, essentially perforated pipe, to absorb that and provide more filtration so that water won't be standing quite as long. We began that project in the spring, hoping to wrap it up, but due to soggy conditions and trying to dig in the spring, much of our progress was kind of collapsed in on itself. So we've been holding out for drier conditions, which is now, and due to turnover within the department, within the maintenance department, we just haven't had the resources to complete this. So we propose that offering this project to Globe while they're on site, wrapping up Heritage Trail Phase 2 for approximately $20,900 to complete that job, install new stone, the pipe, and cover up the dirt work. So something I'd like to point out that over half of that change order price is actually the materials. It's just an expensive time to be in the construction business, and we are a growing park district right now. So I think it'd be really advantageous to wrap this up with the rest of the park and have a completed park ready to reopen to the public.
What do you think the offset of difference of having you guys do it versus having the 20,000? What do you think you're save?
So the labor was approximately 8,000 of that. So after we rent equipment to get back out there, I can't see much cost savings, honestly.
You've got a gap in your missing tech for, I don't know, a month or two, and for the director of maintenance for a month or two, that you can almost fund it from those gaps on payroll budget. So.
Any questions?
We need a motion to approve, or?
Yes, and I think it's above $5,000, so we do. And again, in your package, it's a Globe Asphalt Paving Company proposal that is on our table for a motion to approve. Do I hear a motion to
I'll make
approve?
a motion to approve Globe's asphalt's proposal for dog park drainage.
John Salovich has made the motion. Is there a second? Second. John Wallenberg seconds. Any further questions? All in favor of the motion to approve the Globe proposal, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The motion unanimously carries. All right, second item is the REMC utility easement.
So this easement kind of slipped through the cracks as the dog park was completing last fall. REMC has requested a utility easement to access the property in the future as they need to address the overhead power lines. So before you is just an agreement to allow that utility service as they need access to their equipment.
Roger, you may have background on this, but why do they need it now? What's the fence and the dog park have to do with anything? We've owned this property for a long time.
Is there a new pole or structure's already there?
The structures are there. They're kind of overhead as you're in the dog park. So I think it's just the contingency should they ever need to park something big underneath and access it. It's better to be able to do that than have to stretch from 875.
I was looking on satellite, and it's just a long stretch that goes right over it, so it's all airborne wires.
Yeah, and I've worked with Boone County REMC many times. They're a very good member-owned company to deal with. In fact, when they needed an easement on my property 25 years ago, I had discussions with their attorney about the language of their easement, and they changed it to suit me, and they've maintained some of that language. So I appreciate that. So yeah, I'm good with it.
Was there Jared has given me a copy of the requested easement. Does everybody have that?
We
Yes.
do.
Okay.
Is there a motion needed for this, or is it just a
Yeah,
FYI?
Yes, we should make a motion to approve the proposed utility easement relating to Heritage Trail Park from to REM, Boone County REM.
What would happen if we said no?
Then, well, does this pole serve anybody else or just us?
What's that?
Does these lines serve anybody else or just us?
I think a large portion of the community.
It's right by the power
So
station.
that's when we asked that
These are
question.
high-
Because
high
there was a-
power.
These are not just to service the park. They are, you know,
Big mamas.
50 feet overhead. So
And are they within the right of way for 400 South or outside of that? Probably.
Rail trail. Yes.
It's in the northeast corner of our property, right?
I think that's our,
400.
they're on the,
that's the property description is northeast corner, so
Oh, but the lines are southern edge,
yeah, they come in kind of at a diagonal.
because there's an easement, PSI or somebody has an easement along the southern boundary. And that's where those two railroads ran side by side as well. So it's a kind of a complicated area, but
A lot of utility management there.
but yeah, there's other utility lines in there.
There you can see the lines.
And those are, I didn't think, I mean, there's poles. I mean, when we did Heritage Trail Park, we had to change some things with either PSI or with Duke
There
Energy.
you see the lines.
Oh, yeah.
So there's other utility lines in that area.
I don't want to be a troublemaker for Boone County REM, but why don't you go back to them and just say, what's the background, and have them call Roger, because I can't believe just putting up a dog park fence would trigger this. They haven't made any changes. We haven't really fundamentally changed anything, and we have no fundamental disagreement or objection, but
I think the biggest thing is, should they need to service their equipment, you know, the dog park is locked and membership only. So we could exclude them, I guess, with that merit.
we could have excluded them, even though there's a fence now, we could have excluded them before. So
Okay,
it was open property, but maybe that gave them comfort, but it shouldn't have. We-
It's waited this long. I think it can wait one more month while we get some more clarification.
Right. Okay, so we'll table that till we can get a little fuller report next month.
Or you can approve it subject to my review if you want. It's up to you.
Let's just wait a month.
Right.
Because again, it's just kind of weird. Okay, let's move on to the Southern Rail Trail expansion, and in particular, the trailhead parcels, which involves some actions that Roger's been taking.
Yeah, I'll defer to Roger on this.
Yes, and I did a summary, so I'm going to pass that out. I think I gave Tim one already, but so these are the two houses down close to this on Zionsville Road at the southern end of Von Terra. And both property owners ended up hiring the same attorney. So I've been working with that attorney for the last several months. We've kind of been negotiating back and forth. And they've come down a little, we've come up a little. And anytime you're dealing with a property acquisition where you're asking the owner to, move out of their house and move elsewhere, it gets quite a bit more complicated. It triggers additional resources for the municipality because you have to consider that these people are being asked to move, and fortunately we're doing this voluntarily, by agreement, so we don't have to go to court to do it, which saves a lot of money. But the thing that also made it a little tricky was that while these homes are not fancy homes, and they probably suffer from deferred maintenance, which is not a problem for us because our plan is to demolish the homes. But for the property owner, you have to consider the fact that they're going to have to buy another home somewhere else, and ideally they would be able to buy another home within Zionsville because that's what they had. And that's a complicated situation to deal with. We had appraisals done. We are restricted to not paying more than the average of two appraisals. Like I mentioned, in a situation like this, there are other factors to be considered, other justifications for paying more than what the appraisal said. Another thing that played into that was just the overall increase in property values over the last year.
Those appraisals are 2 years old at this point.
Yeah, I haven't checked the date, but yeah, it was a process that started and then stopped, and then we picked it back up again and kind of gained some momentum. And another interesting thing is that one of the property owners had been required to move, I don't think by Zionsville, but by some other project elsewhere. So this is the second time he's been relocated, not entirely of his own choosing. So anyway, I think that where we are now is within reason. You'll notice that there's a number for a replacement housing price differential. And I've been involved in other situations with the town of Zionsville acquiring property where that was the issue. In other words, we could have to go out and find a house in Zionsville for the amounts that we're offering to settle with them for. And I know from personal experience that would not be easy. If anybody, you know a house in Zionsville in the neighborhood of $200,000, a 2 or 3 bedroom home, please let me know because you could sell it quite easily. But that's kind of the background. And also they're entitled to be paid for their moving expenses. So I think it's good that we've been able to arrive at a number that we think is workable. I've discussed it with Tim a few times. We talked to the mayor about this some time ago to make sure that she was on board with it. It's 2 properties that we think will be important to the future pathway system because it'll allow us to use more of REA's outstanding services to provide. And we already have a preliminary design for this project. So we had to delay it due to the property acquisition issues, but we can acquire these properties and get it back on the schedule and maybe utilize some of the grant funds if we have some left.
So this, the trailhead property was actually within the Next Level Trails grant, so it's not so much of if we want to, that's part of the grant requirements, so we should move forward on this.
Yeah, and we have a final design and ready to bid. So we're, again, the amount's very reasonable, and I know how much a lot would cost, let alone a house these days.
And he's been accepted.
Really, the question I had was
Basically,
the 3 to
not by this board.
the 3
That's
months
what
and
we're asking for. Yeah, the homeowners have agreed to some numbers.
3 or 6 months is my question.
Yes.
What's going on there?
So I think we have to give them 90 days to relocate, but they've asked for twice that. Is that going to cause a problem if we were to give them 6 months to vacate?
As long as we can bid the project, I don't see that issue.
Well, do we have title?
We would have title within a month, I would say.
Well, that puts us at what, March? That doesn't
Yep.
seem like that should be a problem, right?
I mean,
There is no
you know,
margin.
I can go back with 4 or 5 months if that's going to be an issue, but
Because Next Level Trail grant funds need to be spent by the end of 2022. Bond funds have to be spent by the end of 2022. So next year is 2022.
And what do you, Tricia, do you know the estimated construction time on the trailhead?
We have 6 months, but it shouldn't take that long.
So from March, we'll already have it awarded and, begin date March, we're still looking at a fall completion date. So well within our time frame.
what I'm thinking is that we try to set like a 5-month deadline, knowing that would give us an extra time. If they end up, needing an extra month kind of at the last minute and, they've shown good faith and doing what they can, then we would have that discretion. But I would just like to shorten kind of the agreed upon time with the understanding that if there's a problem, we can always consider that later.
One property's got a lot of equipment on there, right?
Yes, and that's part of the agreement is that would all get moved.
Questions? All right, is there a motion to approve the proposed acquisitions of the trailhead properties as set out in?
Can I ask one more quick
Oh,
question?
sure.
Why was the replacement differential more on the smaller lot?
I asked the same question and didn't get a good answer other than it was a negotiation and it was just what it took to get it done. So I agree. It doesn't seem exact, but it was what we came up with. I argued
One
that
of those
point and
houses may be
didn't win.
abandoned.
Yeah.
One of them may be abandoned. I'm not sure, or even people living in both of them at this point, but might be a question to ask, but
So if we're gonna make a
any other
motion,
questions?
what kind of time of possession do we include in that motion? 5 months and then,
I'd say give Roger and the
Discretion.
superintendent and president discretion from 3 to 6 months to negotiate continued possession from 3 to 6 months. And otherwise, as set out in our proposal summary. And to take all actions necessary to complete and consummate this transaction.
and during that period, from between the time we take title and they move, we would have access to the property. We would have the ability for people to walk it and look at it if they're gonna be making bids on
We
construction.
would have to arrange that with them. I mean, that would have to be with their permission.
And we don't need to go into their homes, but if we have access to the property, that might be helpful. Right, Trish? That's it.
I've already surveyed it. with the drone.
Oh, okay. So maybe that's not an issue.
Would liability be an issue in that interim between title acquisition and vacation?
They would, so we're not worried about a loss to any of the structures. You don't have to insure the land, but and they should maintain their insurance, until they've moved. They could probably cancel part of their insurance, but they'd want to maintain their liability insurance. But yeah, we don't get that responsibility until we have possession.
Ready?
Yes, is there a motion to approve the acquisition and authorize Roger, the superintendent, and the president to sign all documents to consummate or complete the transaction as proposed?
I will make that motion.
John Wallenberg has made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
John Stair has made the second. Further questions? All right. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The motion unanimously carries.
Thank you.
All right, on to Winterfest. Electrical upgrade proposal. Jared.
So our inaugural Winterfest activities for the month of December are shaping up nicely. We're having some really exciting conversations internally, Mindy, Wendy, and I, about some of the programming that's going to take place. Looking forward to sharing that probably next month. Also met with the Boone County Bureau of Tourism, CBD, and they are all on board for being a sponsor in this inaugural program as well. So we're beginning to welcome our sponsors for the event as well. One of the critical infrastructure components of running a large ice rink is the chiller, which requires a large amount of electricity. Luckily for us, Mulberry Fields is equipped with a transformer that can handle that load. But in order to access that and also provide additional hookups for future events, we do require tapping into that transformer and providing a new pad for quick connect and also 120 volt for other electrical needs. So for $10,541.20, we could have that new unit installed, which is critical to the running of the ice rink and the lighting of the event. It would sit right next to the green transformer that is within Mulberry Fields and be easily accessible for the shelters or the parking lots or the roundabout for future need. So just requesting a motion to approve the funding of that work.
You got the money to do it?
Yes.
I'm looking for it in my package. I thought I saw it earlier. Is there?
How'd you find the company out of Shelbyville?
We've worked with them before on some
Okay.
of our larger electrical needs.
It's right after one of the REA.
Yeah, it's like page 20.
Page 21, if you have it in order.
Yeah, I may have gotten it out of order. All right, questions? Any questions?
Just to add, we have already spoke with the REMC engineers about this project and they gave us the green light as well, just to verify that.
And this is like a permanent thing. So if we do this again, it'll just be there.
We do this if we have a summer event that requires a large load, and it'll also just be more outlets on the park for everyday use as well. Behind lock and key, of course, but.
Questions? Is there a motion to approve the expenditure as set forth in your packet?
I would move to approve the Butterfield Power Quality bid of $10,541.20.
Second.
Jill Pack has made the motion and John Salovich has seconded the motion. Are there any other questions? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The motion unanimously carries. All right, on to the golf course pathway improvements. And I don't know how you want to present this, or maybe three of you involved. I understand, but go ahead.
Just to give a little context, earlier this year, Mike, myself, and the Department of Public Works met at the golf course to begin to kind of address the underlying issue that has eroded our pathways, and that's the water retention on the site and the drainage. So internally, we are working on a solution for half of the course to begin to use gravity to move that off-site quicker, which is going to preserve not only our greens, but also the cart paths as well. The other half of the golf course will require some permanent pumps to be installed, and we're looking at what that solution would be as well. And we'll talk about that in future meetings as we plan a future budget for the golf course. But this is imperative, I feel, to the golf course. The experience while driving around is not the most enjoyable, despite the fact that we are seeing record numbers out at the course. Just to give you a little bit more context, I was digging through some old documents, and in 2016, the average golf rounds played per day was 60. So just in 5 years, we've been able to more than double that. So I think that speaks to Mike and his crew, as well as kind of the renewed energy around the sport of golf, both nationally and within our community. So Mike, do you have anything to say kind of about the quality of the park and some of our pathway issues that we're seeing?
Yeah, so I mean, I know the cart paths have been a bone of contention for many years. So the fact that this is being brought to the attention is very welcoming, will be very welcoming to all the golfers down at the golf course who have been requesting this. So yeah, as far as like the paths, I mean, I know, just in comparison, Brookshire over in Carmel just repaved all theirs. It's part of a restoration project that they have going. And so if you saw the before and after Brookshire, it's a great investment. And, the playability of the course improves because we can get carts out there on days when it rains. I mean, right now, based on the gravel and the conditions of the cart paths, there's many days where we can't send carts out. So that's lost revenue, repaving this. Yeah, yes, it's an investment, but we will recoup some of this money just for the sheer fact that we can send carts out on a daily basis. I mean, primarily this is in March and April, but recently in July, when we had those rains, we couldn't send carts out. So yeah, driving, around, up hole 8, it's completely gravel. It gets washed away. Many people aren't even using the cart paths anymore. They're veering off into the rough and grass. So that's actually causing increased work because now they're creating their own cart paths. I know, for example, behind hole 8, people are going pretty much right up over the tee. So yeah, I mean, I guess it's one of those things where if we don't fix it, they're just going to fix it themselves and go on tees and just cause more damage.
So just historically, the paths have been an issue for a long time. There was a budget 2 years ago to try to fix some of the paths. In the meantime, a substantial capital expenditure for a new irrigation system was spent for $400,000 or $500,000. New carts were provided under a leaseback arrangement. So that's made everybody satisfied. They know that there are investments and somebody cares about the golf course. So I just say that I'd never played at the golf course until this year, and I've probably been out there 40 or 50 times playing. And I've had to go incognito in the senior league because everybody always talks about the cart paths, and to try to become a lightning rod for everyone, for all the people love the golf course, and they are very sincere, and they want the best for it. That's not to say that a rustic 9-hole, very nice 9-hole community golf course needs to be like a resort locale. And and the proposal, I think, is not even to pave 100% of the path, but there are big chuck holes, and there are very steep sections that are dangerous. yeah, there's a need, and fortunately, and kudos to Mike and the golf course crew. They've been doing very, very well. So it makes it much easier to say, okay, yeah, let's, obviously there's big future for a 9-hole community golf course. And that's what I'm reading, by the way, in the industry. You know, Mike had mentioned this a year ago and talking about this, that 9-hole golf courses are almost a wave of the future. They're more convenient, they're more accessible.
Yeah, people can just play a much, people don't have 5 hours to go play golf anymore. That's why Top Golf is what it is. People can go over there for an hour, make a, time, and, they're in and out in an hour.
Yeah, Top Golf is a good example of why there's a younger cohort coming to golf now. I mean, with the 9 holes a part of that, but
Yeah, so people can go out there in an hour and 45 minutes. The other thing about Zionsville Golf Course, if you go over to Scotland, I mean, all the Scotland golf courses are the center of town. There's very few places in definitely Indiana, if not the United States, where the golf course is the center of town. And the location of Zionsville Golf Course, it's right there in the center of town. So adding, the cart pass and showing this investment is just kind of like really the tip of the iceberg of what we really can do down there. I mean, there's we can partner with restaurants, we can do all kinds of stuff, but the location we can't change. And now that it's right there in the center of town, we can they can just be a conduit for even bigger and better things.
okay, can you describe the proposal and the estimated costs?
Yeah, Joe, if you could share my screen. So that might, hopefully you can see that. Those black lines are the areas that we're talking about impacting to repair the worst of the worst as far as holes and erosion and things like that. With 2 alternate designs that are in red. And with that alternate design, it's kind of to address the necessary changes to the steepest hill on the course and kind of course correct that so it's a safer and more enjoyable trip around the course. Currently that's gravel and it does get washed out and it can be a little treacherous at times of the year. So addressing the worst conditions in the course and correcting those, as well as reinforcing the pathway that maintenance travels the most to 8 foot to better accommodate the vehicles that have to travel to the maintenance barns and through that side of the golf course. We would like to begin this project this fall to minimize our impact to the 2022 season, but also Duke Energy will be replacing some poles within the project area. So there is the potential for cost savings as if they do encroach onto the golf course with their utility repairs, they will replace that segment as well. So it's kind of timely to match this construction project along with the construction that'll go on right next door in the utility corridor. So Tricia, did I leave anything out?
You've got some paths that are wider than others, and this relates to John Stairs' earlier question about switching the order of holes. Fill us in on that, Trish or Mike? And the paths in question are really from the clubhouse west and then south. So kind of on the northwest upper left-hand corner of the map you've got.
Yeah, so I'm kind of proposing changing the layout for the of the course in the sense that currently our number 1 hole, which is along Temple there, is the hardest hole on the golf course. It's right along the road. I can't tell you how many golf balls end up in Little Eagle Creek and actually damage cars. So it's the very tough opening tee shot. So the proposal is changing our first hole to our current 4th hole. the fourth hole is a par 5, which would afford golfers much more opportunity to spray the golf ball left, right, and have an opening shot that psychologically will be a lot more enjoyable than putting a sleeve of Pro V1s down Temple. So we would also, so then on, the current 4 would be 1, 2 would be 5, 3 would be 6, 4 would be 7, 5 would be the current 8, 6 would be the current 9. So then what we would do is have the new cart paths that would go right by the clubhouse, which would also provide restroom facilities for the golfers, and also provide them an opportunity to maybe partake in some of those variety of beers that I talked about previously. So, and then they would go right to hole 1. So the cart path would go around the clubhouse to our current hole 1, which that would be
So
7.
the key is now you conveniently get to go by the clubhouse between holes 5 and 6.
You're making a turn on a 9-hole course.
Yeah, right now between 5 and 6, there's a porta john and a,
That would still be there, so there would be 2 opportunities.
but that's not 5 and 6 anymore. That's kind of hole 1, 2, 3. But so the key is you got a long trip between 5 and 6, but you're going by the clubhouse and
Actually, it'd be between 6 and 7.
6 and 7. Sorry, yeah, discounted.
But so then, like I said, then they would end on a par 5, which is our current 3rd hole. And the other thing is, from a golfer standpoint, I don't know how many people are golfers, but you really don't want 2 par 5s back to back. You'd start, currently our 3rd hole is a par 5 and our 4th hole is a par 5. So this would kind of break up the 2 par 5s to start with a par 5 and end with a par 5. And as you end with a par 5, it's just right there near the clubhouse. And very enjoyable. So
You're not sure you want to do this? I mean, again, I
do.
We can discuss whether this should be board approved sequence of holes, but I think I would say that that's for the superintendent and the golf course manager to decide.
What do you think? There's a lot of people who played here I've played here since I was a small kid.
Yeah.
So as soon as you said it, I was like, what are you talking about? So, but I've heard you talk and I see some sense, but we already kind of have a turn on 4. It's a little bit sooner, but I see what you're like, what you're getting at, but I just want to say that there's probably a lot of pushback on something like that, I guess. I know
there was pushback when we put the tall grass out there too. And that lasted for about a month.
That might help. I mean, again, it's a fresh change if you do it right.
There was pushback when we increased beer from $2 to $3, and that lasted about a week. So yeah, there's going to be change, and change is always open to resistance, but it's not like I'm just doing it to say, well, let's change it for the heck of it. I coached middle school teams, and we've already done, for middle school teams, we teach some kids off 1, some kids off 4, just for pace of play. And it's just a small sample size, but their scores were actually lower if they teed off hole 4 than they did 1. Just because by the time they got to hole 7, the new proposed hole 7, they were warmed up. And they could just hit a drive rather than standing on that first hole, and it's your first shot of the day. So yeah, no, I
think it'd be fun to debate for a whole year for the penny putters in the senior league. We'd probably be, what do you think? Enjoy it.
But I don't think there's any downside. You're not physically going out and changing anything. You're just changing the order of play.
Correct.
And if for some reason it's a massive disaster, we can just go back to the way it is now.
Changing the cart path has nothing to do with what you're talking about here.
No, the only cart path we'd be adding, and it's not changing the existing cart paths, but it would be adding that cart path
over by 9, right?
Behind 9 and then to around the clubhouse. But
it's kind of widened and beefed up. So
and the reason it is this,
but there's maintenance sheds back there.
Yeah, to keep people out of the parking lot. for a safety, we can't have
No,
people
it's-
driving through the parking
It's
lot.
been that way for decades.
Yeah, they do,
Well, yeah.
but there also isn't a cart path there for them to drive and go this way. So if there's a cart path for them to use, then they'll be more apt to use it. I'm not saying, I'm not dumb. People are still gonna go right through the parking lot from hole 6 to the new hole 7. But if we don't provide them someplace to travel, then shame on us. But now we do have this opportunity and they can use the new cart path.
You got a lot of numbers here.
Could you describe alternate hole 3 and alternate hole 6, which takes the total amount from $382,000 to $470,000? Could you describe those two alternates?
Yeah, so
What's going on?
that's that red area. So that red area is a proposed, alternate route to the forward tees. The area between the two, the red areas right now is a very steep, as Jared said, it's very steep, dangerous to walk on, to take a cart on. So to go up and around.
Let me interrupt you. I think that red is a part of the main proposal, isn't it? I think that's a,
So the path is very steep right now.
Yep.
We're making it longer,
right.
but we can make it not quite steep. So that's.
But that's not alternative hole 3 or alternative hole 6, is it? I thought alternative hole 3 was to do the whole length.
So it's the grading, which will start kind of at the top of the hill, including that red line. And then we need to come back, with cars, get that forward to the bottom of the hill. Have it to this at top. So that is, so it's the grading and the additional path that you see for, I think we call it 6. And then 3 is a lot of the same thing. It follows the same cart path alignment, but we're filling in there so that again, we can lessen that grade a little bit. So it's not as much straight down, you can kind of bring it up a little bit. And that makes it so you're maybe not quite as steep as it comes around the corner there. What we were calling the
I think the area you're talking about, that's actually going to be, that's,
Is the confusion that
yeah,
you
that's not 3.
labeled the alternatives with the new hole numbers rather than the old hole numbers? I'm confused. You use the new hole numbers or the old ones?
Yeah, we used the new, because 6 is the long one, which was 9.
Right. So,
Okay.
So that would be actually the 4. That would be up around 14.
I have no idea what's.
Right here, right?
So that's what we're calling 3.
There's only two red lines on here,
3. Then this is 4.
and they're all basically on 9. Just call hole 9, between 8 and 9.
Which will be hole 6.
Yeah, well, right now
That's
it's
my
right now it's
question.
8 and 9, so it's.
Is that, I know exactly what the red line means, but I got a different description earlier.
Yeah.
So the red line is an alternate that is not included in this quote that we could.
That's the question.
Yeah, it takes it from the 380 to the
Okay.
70.
All right, but when you're talking about how there's a steep grade that's dangerous, do we need the alternate to make it not dangerous?
Yes.
Okay. It seems like since we've talked about this at a public meeting, it might be a good idea to do that.
So the thing I'm trying to get my head around these numbers here, you got, there's a block up here that says 240, and then there's more blocks down here so I'm just trying to, what's the first block, and then I got these other blocks, that's what I'm
The
trying to,
first block is the black line.
just the black lines?
Just the black lines. The second block is, okay, so the second one is. Hole 6.
Oh, you say hole 3.
Okay, so hole 3 is over here. Which is the alignment of the current path. Which is the alignment of the current path that's when we started up here, and we're gonna fill around the corner, and then we're gonna feather it out and around the corner to lessen that grade. So that block is essentially grading, is what you're seeing there. And then the second alternate, which I think is on six, is the additional path, which you see in red. of these places. But it's also the grading from here all the way down along the side, and probably some of the wood vegetation. included too. So those are the numbers that you're seeing. The first one is kind of the resurfacing, the gravel, and this part of the course, making it asphalt and repair and replacement along. Oh, it's beautiful.
So yes, for the record, the first number that you see is for those black lines. The second number that you see is for what we were calling hole 3, which is essentially the grading to bring that up and lessen the slope. And then the third number that you're seeing there, that second alternative third number is for the red that you see. It's for the grading and the additional path and some vegetation removal on that red. And those are just estimates, and we're attempting to account for the increased material costs, because as you know, with every conversation we have, materials do cost more now.
That's the parentheses percentage that's there, that's the contingency, like it says jail construction 10%.
Yes, that's part of it. And then part of it too is just anytime you dig in the ground, there's a chance you're going to find something you don't expect. So that's what that covers too.
I'm so confused. Because there's the 240,000 number. Then
Right.
there's another number that's under the 50% design development cost opinion of 382,000.
Mhm.
And then there's the final number, which takes the 382 and adds in the two alternatives to 470 total. So how does 240 fit into this? What does
Yeah,
that?
what's that 240?
The 240 was the original estimate. Sorry if I had that in front of me. The 240 was the original estimate done as a part of the master plan a few years ago.
4 years ago.
Got it.
So,
Okay.
so
So we
the-
really just don't even need to look at that.
you don't,
Okay.
because it's different material costs, it's different linear foot. It didn't have the additional wide path there for the maintenance. Sorry, I
No,
should have brought a copy of that with me and could have
You're good.
avoided that confusion.
Okay.
Now, okay.
For the
That doesn't
pavement,
make
can we
sense.
choose
Yeah.
5 and 8,
I'm like, what is this 240?
Okay.
Now I
where
got
it says 5 foot and then 8 foot, is that 8 foot? Is that like the cost for the additional 3 feet?
So the 8 is just for that wider path going from the parking lot back to the
Okay, so
shed.
that's just for the 8 foot
That's just
section.
that short section,
Okay.
yeah, which again was increased from what we had originally looked at. And then the rest of it is, I believe it's 6 foot wide, but.
5.
Is that right? Yeah. It is 5. Okay.
And there will remain a path that will be aggregate. Is that correct? Anything that's not black, or is it all paved at this point?
This will make a uniform trail, paved trail throughout the course. We are abandoning, well, it's already been abandoned, kind of that pathway that's not identified between the two black lines at the very south of this picture, at least, let's say. Yeah, I could point.
So you're just not repaving some of the gaps.
The stairs were already, yes. So where it's not in black is where there's existing pathways that are in good condition.
It's like hole 1, you're not repaving.
Right. Yep.
All right, what would you want from the board besides robust discussion and questions?
One more thing to mention, this was originally kind of folded into the Northern Rail Trail expansion to kind of have potentially some cost savings, but due to the desire to kind of begin that this fall, and also in having conversations, if they have to load up the equipment and drive it 8 miles or 80 miles, you still get that mobilization cost. So the amount we could save is kind of really unknown at this point. So we don't anticipate that to be a significant cost savings by keeping it in the Northern Rail Trail. And with that, as we bid that out and begin that next spring, that would impact our entire 2022 season with these repairs potentially. So it seems advantageous to both address it this fall, maybe close the course a couple weeks early, which would also allow Mike's crew to do some fall preventative maintenance to have a better course next spring as well. Usually we don't get that because the freezing ground is right around the corner after closure. So there are some other advantages to addressing this fall.
What's the projected length of time this would take?
6 to 8 weeks. So we're hoping to, get this bidded out within the month and awarded, and then begin in sometime in October, and at least have the materials on site before the asphalt plants close down and around Thanksgiving. So that's kind of the timeline we're working with.
Then what account is this paid out of?
So this would be from the general fund. That's where we're requesting 450,000 to go with the funds that are already allocated with the golf courses budget from this year. So these would be used after that. They would be used, but they would be used after that initial investment from the golf course.
Which how much do we have in the golf course that we allocated for this?
100,000. So requesting 450,000 to kind of buffer some unknowns, and as this is finalizing, with the understanding that the golf course funds would be used first. There's also 10,000 requested for an amendment to the contract for the Northern Rail Trail to pull this out to bid it separately. And so these general fund dollars, they're actually coming from 3.2 million. That was when the town last year consolidated our funds into one general fund and the parks moved there. We earmarked 3.2 million that specifically are to be used for future parks projects. So those funds are separate from our non-reverting capital, our non-reverting operating impact fees, bonded dollars. Those are all sit somewhere else in the ether. And as we use those funds, they'll eventually disappear. And then we're back in the arena, the larger arena of the general fund, requesting each year for capital funds. But as we sit right now, those funds are specifically earmarked for parks to be used first.
Capital projects.
Capital projects, yep. And again, separate from the non-reverting capital, which we also have.
Questions? Comments?
The way Mike's year is going, you might be able to pay this off by October.
Yeah, it's one year. Yeah, it's 1 year's revenue is the expenditure. So, I mean, it's a significant amount, but. All right, is there a motion to approve the, so we're making a motion to really bid out this project. REA has the final design done. They just have to extricate it from the north extension project. So now we want to authorize Jared to bid out this project and find the best qualified vendor to try to do it. And this is our plan. This is the basic plan pursuant to this basic plan presented to us.
And this is,
It'll be based on alternative, or you're just gonna go for the guts there?
I would recommend folding it all into one to not provide that cost variance because we know we want these safety features enhanced to increase the enjoyable rideability and also just decrease, any risk. So I propose we include both.
I think we have to.
And what about folding in the change of the holes? Is that part of it too?
That was just kind of the brainchild of Mike, and it seems everything he's mentioned is just a great idea that would support.
I'm comfortable with letting the golf course manager make that decision.
Yeah, me
But,
too. I don't think that needs to be a board thing.
Yeah.
So we're approving the design as presented, including the two alternatives, and authorizing Jared in consultation with Roger or me or Trish to bid it out pursuant to law.
contingent on also the additional appropriation from town council next Monday, August 16th.
So we're approving with the motion, we're approving these funds because if it's bid out, we accept.
We'll do that.
No, we'll get another bite at this one. We'll have to approve the award of the bid. So
Yeah.
this is just for us.
Just the solicitation for the bids.
I make a motion to allow, it's a long one to say, right?
We approve the design and authorize bidding it out.
Including the alternatives.
Put it up there.
Thank you.
And I would second that.
All right, John Solovich has made the motion. John Stair has seconded that we approve the proposed design as presented, including the two alternates, and subject to council unearmarking our funds to bid this out and report back to us with the results. Questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The motion unanimously carries. All right, thank you, Mike, for coming tonight and hanging around for that. On to the rail trail widening project.
So you all kind of had a preview of this last month, and kind of the goal is, as we add on these two new segments of the rail trail at the 15-foot width, we're going to have a choke point in our existing rail trail. So I think it's advantageous to roll with this project cycle, utilize our grant fund or our bonded dollars that were saved due to our next level grant award, and begin to look at the existing portion of rail trail and where it's feasible to widen that closer to that 15-foot mark throughout. So this is by far our largest project in recent history. So this will be from the Nancy Burton Trailhead all the way up to Heritage Trail Park. So the project begins with a scoping study, and that'll utilize GIS and begin to examine the feasibility of where widening to that 15-foot is possible, where there are restrictions that's going to require maybe 12-foot, which is still wider than some spots that we have the rail trail, and would provide 3 layouts and cost estimates for those projections. In addition to that, REA has included the proposal to include permitting, preliminary and final plans, construction, administration, and bidding. So this contract was for 2,500 and 2,055, 200,055, 25050. I'm sorry, it's been a long day. And just to put that kind of in context, so this is the largest segment of the rail trail to kind of analyze for design, but also our southern rail trail contract with REA for the design of the south and the trailhead was 200,029. 200, I'm sorry.
200 and what?
229,440. So this is just slightly above that for a much larger project area.
Right, so the big picture is we have a $3.5 million of bond funds for use with pathways improvements. We were lucky enough to receive a $1.8 million next level trail grant to help us with a portion, the north extension and south extension of the rail trail. So bond funds, they're there. We need to decide what to do with them, if anything, before the end of 2022. And we've always contemplated that, and it's part of a 5-year plan of strengthening and widening and improving drainage on the current 3 miles of the rail trail, especially just south of Town Hall and, up by the Methodist Church. So that's the big picture. This is
In addition, just for preventative maintenance and upkeep, it'd be nice to have one uniform pathway that can kind of be on the same age cycle. And as those problem spots are identified in the future, we can kind of have more resources to address those moving forward in a progressive manner.
Questions? One question is, this did not include Carter Station pathways. So those are also pathways connected to the rail trail, as a matter of fact, that we had in our 5-year plan is needing some improvements. So we may want to, we could always add them.
If you'd like us to do an assessment while we're doing the assessment for the widening, we'd be happy to come off the trail and do look at Carter Station at the same time, since it's, you know, it's right there as part of the project. So we could fold that into the scoping study there at the beginning.
Okay.
See what condition they're in and if you want to look at incorporate that in the project or not.
Okay, that'd be great.
Yeah, the scoping study will use GIS mapping, but will be on the trail measuring. It's PACER is what it's called, but it's an asphalt assessment tool that you use to look at the condition of the trail. So we'll be doing that for, you know, the length there in between the north and south extension.
And we'll have a stopping point after the scoping study is done at 6 weeks. And that's like $35,000 of it. I may have that number wrong. And it's critical for us to stop at that point and say, how's the north extension going? Has our estimates of the cost of extending north changed? Because if everything's going up, or if we're having change orders on the south extension or for the trailhead property, then that might be a reason to reduce the scope of the widening project.
So that number in front of you includes from preliminary all the way through construction documents and bid. However, we'll stop after that scoping study to decide then which path are we going for those construction documents, how that's phased.
So we might amend it to reduce, narrower scope might mean less money or. Further questions? Is there a motion to accept and approve the proposed REA scoping report and construction document service contract and authorize Jared and or the president to execute the agreement? Further questions about it? Questions, concerns? Motions?
Question, just to clarify, we approved the contract with Beam Longus and Neff on that drainage project with the church, and that's entirely separate from this, right? But it'll be coordinated because it's drainage.
Just to add another thing, been meeting with the other representatives from communities in Boone County on their progress with the rail trail throughout the county. Lebanon was awarded as well with the previous cycle with Next Level Trails grant. Thorntown is also making progress, whether it switches from asphalt or gravel. And Whitestown is submitting an application for round 3, which will be this fall and winter. For the actual completion of their run of the rail trail as well. So potentially as soon as next year, Whitestown could be ready to connect to our northern expansion as well. which will invite other communities to begin experiencing Zionsville's rail trail, and also welcome communities to utilize our trailhead from Indianapolis or Carmel and ride the entire length of the Boone County Big Four rail.
All right, so what do we need a motion for to approve REA?
Yeah,
Doing-
approve the REA trail widening and repair, scoping, reporting, construction document service agreement as proposed.
Okay, well, I'll make that motion that we approve this trail widening and repair scoping report as proposed. And that we give the superintendent and or the president the ability to enter into the contract with REA pending legal approval.
Second.
Okay, John Stair makes the motion. John Salovich seconds the motion. Are there further question or discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. The motion unanimously carries. Right, we are to old business. Overlay Ormond Park, Northern Rail Trail expansion, and Lions Park tennis pickleball courts. Go.
Just wanted to give a quick update on these projects with Overly Warman. A lot of dirt work going out on site and the installation of a culvert. A couple milestones that are coming up. In the next week or two, they should be installing the boardwalk near the pond on site. And then in October, we should see the bridge that will connect the rail trail to the park being installed and completed, as well as the mountain biking trails to begin to be developed in October. So the project is moving along well now, and just a couple things to look forward to as you peek over the fence.
Northern Rail Trail expansion, anything on?
Design documents are nearing 90% completion. We had a productive meeting with Boone County concerning their right-of-way on 400 South, and working together to identify the best crossing as we leave Zionsville and enter onto the Whitestown Big Four Rail Trail, and also addressing a shared drainage concern that seasonally crops up on 400 South that the county's been battling or enduring for the past couple of years. So those were productive talks. They provided some good structure. Also identified that we need to seek another permit for the right-of-way work that'll take place, which the fees will be waived as they do with many municipalities. So we'll get going on that. Beyond that, just waiting for the land acquisition of one parcel and 2 easement considerations to be ready to bid out the northern expansion. So still on our timeline as concerned with the Next Level Trails grant.
Yeah, the 400 South corridor owners have said they're back from vacation and they're meeting with their lawyers. This was 8 days ago. So we'll be trying to continue to follow up with them to ensure that they're somewhat complicated families. Yeah, the heirs of the Canes can create whatever they need to create to provide us, sell us, or sell the corridor to us. They're very, very excited about memorializing their family's farmstead there.
And those construction documents are about ready, right? So, but we're not looking at those yet. I mean, I wouldn't mind taking a peek in order to, just in anticipation of some of these acquisition issues to make sure that I see where we're going.
Absolutely.
And anything on Lions Park or our tennis and pickleball courts?
The tennis courts have been resurfaced and lined. The pickleball community had some comments on that, so we are working with them. We both agreed to kind of pause those talks until the rest of the project finalizes. The foundation of the dedicated pickleball court has been poured, so we're just waiting on the progress of that and the resurfacing to wrap up that project. So more updates on that next month.
All right. Any other board related items? Quickly, I did receive late this afternoon a message from Nancy Carpenter saying that the 501c3 status has been received for the Parks Foundation. So I'm asking for a meeting to take next steps. So that was good news. So our foundation is moving forward with a cadre of dedicated citizens pushing it.
I have more of a question on one of my walking around, across some of our bridges going across especially over at Turkey Foot. I took down the walk down that's not our path, right? So went all the way down to the bridge and see that wonderful red bridge, and then seeing that rusty, cruddy looking bridge going over Eagle Creek. It's just all worn down. All of them are that way. They're all kind of a rough rust. I had this kind of an idea of this, who's in charge of, maintenance of those bridges, but if we had a uniform, the red, if it somehow it would the cap, I just had, I don't know, sort of like be a signature item that, our red bridges of Zionsville or something like that, we had them all over. We have them, going into the town, we're putting in the big one, they're all the same design, they're all rough rust. And just the way that red pops in that Holiday Bridge, it's just something I came up with. And I don't know who's in charge of maintaining those and what, just a 10,000 foot view thought. So.
Yeah, absolutely. That red bridge is popping. I think it's going to be a centerpiece for many family photos, senior photos, and gatherings for the future once it's opened up to the public officially. Concerning bridges, the majority are maintained by the county. So even if they are within city limits, like the Sycamore Bridge is.
Or like the path foot bridges are county bridges?
Not necessarily. So within our parks, like the Turkey Foot Bridge, that is ours. Starkey Avenue Bridge is ours as well. So we do have some, and we could talk further about creating a uniform look for our bridges where it makes sense. A coat of paint would help with wear and tear and upkeep as well. So.
My recollection was that those bridges were intended to be like that and were not intended to be painted. Maybe Tricia knows more about that.
Starkey Avenue and over the Mormon weather steel, so they'll have kind of that rusty, kind of they are sealed. It is not painted, but they are intended to weather and get rid of that. You can change that.
No, I was just.
You can change whether it's painted.
My experience, once you start painting, you never stop painting.
The Apple Tower is always being painted, right?
Yeah, Mackinac Bridge, as soon as they stop on one end, they start over on the other.
And any other board related items? So let's move on to claims. Are there questions about this claims as submitted? Again, as a process in the future, we would like to have our list of claims that were submitted. We need them 3 or 4 days in advance of the meeting, which we've received 3 or 4 days in advance of this meeting. But then it would be incumbent upon board members, if they wanted more detail on individual line items, to send an inquiry to Jared so that he could then come prepared to this meeting with backup invoices. Is that acceptable to you, Jared?
Absolutely.
Is everything set up? So it seems like the invoices have been coming later than the board packet. Could they come at the same time?
There's been a lot of change with the finance components of Zionsville. So this year we've actually moved to new softwares, new systems. So
Yeah.
part of that lag has just been, we have been moving since about April to that new system. So it just takes a lot of data entry up front.
We did that last year and we're still working on it.
You understand. Yeah. But that should get a little bit smoother, and they'll be with the packet every time consistently moving forward.
Yeah, in the old days, we had a 4 to 6 inch thick file of actual invoices. And if you saw something, you could dig in and it might take you 10 minutes to find that invoice that you were furious about. So this will be a cleaner system, I think.
And if there is anything in question, I can easily access the digital file to discuss at the meetings. That's not an issue.
So with that said about our future claims process, are there any questions about our claims as submitted this month? If not, is there a motion to approve claims as submitted?
Motion to approve claims as submitted.
John Wallenberg makes the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Jill Pack seconds. Questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion to approve claims unanimously carries. And then, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Sarah Moore, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
John Solovich seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right. Thank you, park lovers. We appreciate your participation. Thank you, Joe Rust, and thanks for those aerial views of Overly Warman Park. Those were fantastic from the bird. Wonderful. All right, see you next month.